So here it is from 1956. It's a Fender Stratocaster. This is one of the very few guitars that actually have come from Alabama. Everything else in the shop, pretty much none of it comes from Alabama, except for this one. And I remember getting a call from the gentleman who was selling it. He was actually selling it for the widow of its original owner. And since the original owner had passed away, our friend was helping kind of sell the guitar, but he wasn't a vintage guitar expert. And he said, yeah, we're looking to sell this 56 Stratocaster. It's very, very clean, 100% original. Do you want to buy it? And I said, absolutely. Why does it have a faded 3-tone Sunburst finish? Because this is a 56. This should be just a standard 2-tone until 1958 when they started doing the 3-tone Sunburst. And they looked at me and said, well, it's just a factory original 56. I said, okay, well, we're gonna have to look inside and find out about that guitar. So when we did, we saw a bunch of evidence that this is actually a factory refinished guitar. So this was sent back to Fender, I think in 1959. I'll provide more evidence for that in just a little bit here, to have a full factory refinish. And so this is a factory Fender guitar through and through. I have no idea why they would send it back only 3 years later to have it refinished. But if I had to guess, it probably had something to do with people back then really wanted their guitars to look brand new. They didn't want relics. They didn't want vintage. There was no vintage. They wanted their guitars to look brand new. So it's possible it just got some wear and they wanted to look brand new. So this is a great example of that. It has all the cool tells of a factory refinish guitar. But it's still a 56, so it's got great 56 features. We'll see in a little bit. The tremolo cavity date here is July of 1956. So that is just after the transition from the ash body for Sunburst Strats to the alder body for Sunburst Strats. So this is alder. After 56, until the 1970s, all of the Stratocasters were alder except for those finished in factory blonde finish. Those are ash. But 54 to 56, they were all ash. So this is right after the transition, like maybe a month or two. And it's also got the very cool, kind of soft V neck profile. It's a fat neck profile, but it's soft V. It gets a little sharper V in 1957. This is a great example of it. It feels really nice to play. And it's also got the very cool polystyrene plastic they were using from 1954 until 1957, I believe, when they start transitioning to the ABS plastic that you kind of see until the 1960s and 70s. So this is a polystyrene plastic. You can see the edges are a little bit sharper. This material is a little bit more fragile and tends to kind of crumble and break a little more. But I think this is just a really nicely preserved example, both before and after the refinish, because the plastic is in really nice condition. Nice sharp edges. Looks fantastic. So we're going to cut now and show some interior pictures. I can show you what I'm talking about when we talk about a factory refinish. How do we spot that? Here's how. Okay, so this first picture is the back of the neck heel and the neck pocket with the pickguard open. This is the most important picture to prove a factory refinish from this time period. They actually changed the way they did it in the early 1960s. So you'll see one's refinished in 65 will look a little bit different from this. But if you see one from 59 to 62, this is what they look like. And you can see that there's these little impressions on the back of the neck heel and on the inside of the neck pocket. That's actually the serial number. It's 13055. And the reason they kind of did that impression, I'm not sure what they did it with, but it was to match up the neck with the body after the refinishing process. So I think that's so cool. It was moving through the factory and, it had the parts over here and it had different parts and they had to match them back up. You can also see that perfect puzzle piece shape of the way the finish adheres from the neck pocket to the back of the neck. That's some good evidence that this is the original neck to this body. Then in the pickguard area, you can see the faded 3-tone Sunburst. And that's one of the reasons that I'm saying this one was likely done in 1959. Could also have been early 1960. But by 61, they had this bright red 3-tone Sunburst which didn't fade quite as much. So this style here is kind of textbook 59 and maybe early 1960 is what it looks like to me. You can even see on the kind of base side of that neck pocket, you can see what's called a nail hole. It's not a screw hole, it's a nail hole. So you can see the screw holes for the pick guard, but the nail hole here is different. There's usually 3 of these or 4 of these during this time period. and they would use these little brads, they would nail them into the body, and then when the finish was curing, they would sit the body on those nails, because there was no paint stick. They would sit the body on those nails, and it would support the body so the finish could cure on all sides of the body. What we're looking for here is a clear nail hole. You can see they reused the one next to the neck pocket, but if you look at the treble side horn, if you look just to the right of the pickguard screw, you can see a little dot there. And that is actually an unused nail hole from 1959. They were no longer using the nail hole in that area by 59, but they were using it in 56. We're getting into the kind of the nerd weeds here. So go ahead and click to the next video if you just want to hear guitars. But if you want nerd stuff, I got that for you. So let's move on to the next one here. This is the back of the pickguard showing the pickups, all through original 1956 pickups. You can see there's these little nibs where the solder joints are, and that's one thing that kind of shows this is a 56 pickup and not a 59 pickup. Just nice, clean, original coils here. The bridge pickup was a little bit intermittent when it came in, so we were able to just remove the leads from that bobbin and check to see if it would repair. It did, so we only lost like 1 or 2 winds and then reconnected, so it's fully original coil, sounds exactly the way it did right out of the factory. So let's move on to the next one. This is the neck heel, and you can see the neck it was part of the factory refinish, and you can see there was a little bit of the pencil kind of remaining after they may have sanded or chemically stripped it. I'm not sure which one, but they didn't do another date when they did that. And so here's the tremolo cavity showing the original date when the body was made, July 1956. You can also see kind of in the screw holes for the back plate cover, a little bit of that finish kind of spilling into them because the screw holes were already there. You can see up there where the neck plate was a little bit of that remaining red as well. So then we will go to the potentiometer code. If we zoom in on this, we see 250K, that's the resistance of the pot. It's a linear taper, and then 304533. 304 is the manufacturer code, that's stack pole, and 5 is 1955, and 33 is the 33rd week. So the 33rd week of 1955 is when that part was made. It was then shipped to Fender and then used in a guitar. So usually you'll see like maybe a year difference in the potentiometer code and the guitar date code. So that's all the nerd stuff. Now let's actually hear this guitar. I called on my friend Riggs to play it for us, show us how it sounds through the included 1955 Fender Super Amp, 210s, original tweed super, great sounding amp. Here's what it sounds like. So that's the 1956 Fender Stratocaster sent back to the factory in 1959 for refinishing. The catalog states that it was $50 to have it refinished, so I guess they thought that was worth doing at the time. My name is John. My shop's called True Vintage Guitar. That player was Riggs Taylor. There's a link to his YouTube channel below. Go check that out. We're in the shop right now at True Vintage Guitar in Birmingham, Alabama, so if you want to come by and check out some vintage guitars, you can book an appointment and we'd be happy to have you to come by. Or if you're not close by, check it out at truevintageguitar.com. If this guitar and amp is still available, there's going to be a link down below in the description for this video. Thanks for watching.